Why did the change in Alina's heritage drastically alter her backstory? And why is Mal and Alina's relationship much stronger and special on the show? Hi, I'm Clive, and you're watching Awesome Movies. Caw! Oh, there's absolutely no doubt that Kaz Brekker and his gang steal the show in every scene they appear in. There's so much charisma and iconic moments between them throughout the season. But here's the thing, the Crows weren't a part of Shadow and Bone or the Grisha trilogy at all. What? Nope, they were only introduced in the duology Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which takes place after Alina's story. The reason for their inclusion here is because of showrunner Eric Heiserer. His original plan was always to combine the stories, even if Netflix didn't have the rights to Six of Crows. So, once that tiny legal matter was sorted, it was full steam ahead. Well, author Leigh Bardugo isn't too bothered by it, even insisting it made a lot of sense. Speaking to Collider, she said, "I thought it was a pretty great idea. I am keenly aware of how many people the Six of Crows stories brought into the Grishaverse, and to me, the story of the Crows, of Kaz and his crew, provides a very different kind of story and point of view. Judging by how fans have reacted to the Crows, this seems like one change that was for the better. Who knows, maybe we'll still get to see them have their own spin-off series in the future? Fingers crossed." Alexi's different fate. In both versions, Alexi wasn't really a big character, yet in the show, he plays a far more pivotal role than what he did in the novel, where he was devoured by a Volcra in the Crossing of the Fold. Here, he acts as the main link between the Crows and the main story. As one of the only survivors of the Fold, he is caught and forced to give up Alina's identity as the Sun Summoner, which leads to the Crows hunting her down. But right after he does this, he's put down swiftly and quickly. Again, it isn't a major part that he plays, but it manages to give him more importance to the story, rather than just being another casualty of the Fold. And hey, at least we got to see him banter with his friends before he met his demise. But what did you think about the show's version of Alexi? Alina's heritage. If you read the books, Alina is described as an orphan who is small, pale, and mousy, with dull brown hair and eyes. Well, on the show, the decision was made to make Alina half Shu, which means she's mixed race. For actress Jessie Mei Lee, who is mixed race herself, being half English, half Chinese, this opportunity to rewrite Alina's history made a lot of sense, considering the context of the story. Speaking to Teen Vogue, she said the following: "This is a story that centers around identity and belonging, about someone who doesn't feel like they fit in, so the decision to make Alina half Shu just felt natural. It wasn't just shoved in there for the sake of diversity. It made the story richer. In fact, when you think about it, it's an ingenious addition to her backstory, creating an additional conflict and layer to Alina's story as she needs to battle racism as well. And since part of Alina's journey is discovering her true identity, this change to her heritage just makes so much sense here. Plus, after watching Shadow and Bone, can you imagine anyone else but Jessie in the role? We thought not." The body horror element. Both in the book and series, the stag is a central part of the storyline. Yet, the usage of the antlers varies across the medium. In fact, it's pretty darn gruesome to look at on the Netflix show. Much like on screen, David Kostick is responsible for binding the antlers with Alina in the book. However, he merely melds the ends together, making it a collar that's almost impossible to take off. While in the series, it looks like something out of a Wes Craven film. I mean, sheesh, look at those things. They're actually stuck under her skin. You feel queasy just looking at it. Fortunately, Alina manages to get rid of them, because they certainly can't be too comfortable while you roll around and try to sleep at night. Though you can't deny that this grotesque reimagining added a far more visceral and menacing touch than the book's version of it. Brrr, getting chills just thinking about it. The connection between Alina and the Darkling. In the books, it's pretty evident that the Darkling manipulated Alina for his own purposes, even though he was pretty convincing in the beginning. You simply can't deny that the chemistry between them was electric. On the show, he kinda does the same thing in the sense that he also uses her for his dastardly plan. But, and this is a big but, you can see there is something more between him and her. He even feels saddened by her reaction of disgust towards him, saying she must make him the villain of the story if she has to. It isn't hard to see that he wishes she would see him differently, and somewhere, deep down inside of his cold, dark heart, he actually cares for her. Ben Barnes confirmed this to Collider, stating that while the Darkling does despicable things and tries to justify them, he genuinely fell for Alina. He said, "He might be genuinely falling for this person. It might be this person that could give hope and light to him again in the future." It certainly adds a different element to their dynamic, making you wonder what if. And speaking of another relationship, Alina and Mal's fromance. In the books, there's absolutely no doubt that Mal and Alina are the Ross and Rachel of the Grishaverse. At times, Alina gushes over him, while he plays more of a blasé, yeah, like whatever man, approach to her in the beginning. She crushes hard over him, and most of her actions seem to be centered around her love for him. It's instantly evident that the nature of their relationship is romantic. On the show, however, their feelings are a lot more subtle. Naturally, anyone with two eyes can see they care deeply for each other and probably want to utter the L word from the top of the mountain, but it's far more restrained and nuanced. In fact, the focus is more on their friendship and them helping each other along the way on their respective journeys. And it actually elevates both of their character developments that much more. Alina feels like she has a bigger purpose rather than finding a boy's attention, while Mal comes across as more balanced and well-rounded in this version as well. Undoubtedly, they will become a couple and fireworks and rainbows will explode around them. Until then, it's kinda nice to actually get to know each of them as individuals, right? Who is Arkin Visser? While the Crow's inclusion in Shadow and Bone was unexpected, it was even more surprising for an all-new character to be intertwined in their story. And no, we're not talking about Milo the Goat, but he was cool too. In fact, we're referring to Arkin Visser, also known as the Conductor. Even though he's entirely new to the series, his creation here makes total sense, especially since he's a smuggler who gets people across the fold. It's the sort of shadowy task that you could imagine happening in the Grishaverse, but it hadn't really been considered until he popped up. Also, it shows you how there are people who will have some sort of vested interest in the fold staying intact, since they can line their pockets and make deals in the last fun, we promise. Shadows! Sadly, Arkin has already met his end on the show, and he's unlikely to ever feature again. Still, he was a decent addition to Shadow and Bone that expanded this world and could have easily slotted into any of the books. See, not all changes to the source material have to be bad. The Darkling's different alias. It's kind of weird how the show only refers to the Darkling here and there, because in the books, that's pretty much the only name he goes by. As we covered in a previous video, though, there was a good reason for the change to General Kirigan in the show. Basically, it was to preserve the character's identity for newer fans who might be watching it without knowing the history from the books. Ha, if this was any other show, they just add a baseball cap to his disguise. Yes, we're looking at you, Joe! More importantly, Leigh Bardugo was completely alright with this change to her creation, telling the Daily Mail, "That was really the choice of the writers and Eric, but it was one I absolutely understood. At the end of the day, it wasn't such a radical change since the character's core essence was still the same as from the source material. Although, the Darkling did get more of a backstory in the TV show than he did in the book series, which must have been a welcome addition to fans of the Master of the Shadows. And hey, General Kirigan sounded like an authoritative and powerful name, right? But it wasn't quite as cool as the name Milo. And speaking of the infamous goat, wouldn't you like to find out more about the true superstar of Shadow and Bone? Well, then you have to watch our video about all the hidden behind-the-scenes secrets. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome!